One of the self-styled experts who constantly plagiarizes my work once asked me, "Can you summarize a narcissist's life in under 30 seconds?" I took it as a challenge to my grandiosity, and I answered, yes. And here we go. The narcissist is born as the cutest pilpilon, cutie pie. He's a baby, and then he is traumatized and abused by parental figures, sometimes by peers or role models. There are many forms of abuse. Remember, spoiling, pampering, idolizing, and pedestalizing are also forms of abuse because they instrumentalize and objectify the child. Whew, so many $10 words. Out goes the pilpilon, and in comes the adult narcissist. This is the adult narcissist. He is happy-go-lucky. He believes himself to be godlike, and he looks for an intimate partner, someone to entrain, which is a fancy word for brainwashing, someone to entrain and to convert her into a figment of his shared fantasy. And this lasts for 2-3 decades. Out go these decades. And this is the narcissist in his final years. This is a cap which is intended to fend off reality. As you see, this narcissist can no longer see what's happening around him. He is deep into his mind. The shared fantasy took over. He grows a very long white beard because that's how God looks like in Renaissance paintings. And then he dies. How did I do? The narcissist's life in under 30 seconds. But, in under 2 minutes actually. But, today we're going to discuss something that keeps recurring in the narcissist's life. Early, late, and final stages. And this is frustration, aggression. Now, to remind you, there was a guy named Dollard who in 1933 proposed the frustration-aggression hypothesis, which says simply that when you're frustrated, you would tend to convert your frustration into aggression. As we say today, DA, D-U-H. Okay. The narcissist handles frustration very differently, unlike healthy people. As far as a narcissist is concerned, any frustration is perceived as narcissistic injury. And if the narcissist were to be frustrated in public, that would constitute narcissistic mortification. The narcissist's definition of frustration is also unusual. It is any attempt to disagree with the narcissist, criticize him, confront him, limit his desires and urges, not succumb to his wishes, not cater to his needs, say no to him, or even possess boundaries. If you're independent, if you're autonomous, if you're agentic, if you're boundaried, you cause the narcissist frustration, and he perceives it as a malevolent form of opposition, a kind of narcissistic injury inflicted on purpose. You are torturing him. And this perception of frustration as narcissistic injury and mortification creates a lot of apprehension in the narcissist. The narcissist is terrified of being frustrated. He anticipates frustration. He catastrophizes it. And this generates in him intolerable anxiety and stress. When the narcissist is exposed to mounting amounts of anxiety and stress, he decompensates. In other words, all his defenses shut down, including the infantile primitive defenses, and especially the false self. He becomes denuded of his defenses, skinless, defenseless. And clinically speaking, the narcissist becomes a borderline. He switches, in my work, he switches to a borderline self-state. And he emotionally dysregulates and even acts out, exactly as a borderline does. So when you see a narcissist frustrated, anxious, rageful, opposed, confronted, and denied, you see a narcissist who is fast becoming a borderline. He would lash out, he would throw temper tantrums, he would emotionally dysregulate, he would feel swamped by his own negative affectivity, anger, envy, hatred even, and so on. And this could push the narcissist, exactly as it does the borderline. It could push the narcissist to become a secondary psychopath. A psychopath, actually. The borderline becomes a secondary psychopath because she possesses empathy and access to positive emotions. The narcissist becomes a primary psychopath. So let me clarify this, because I misspoke a minute ago. When the narcissist is faced with stress and anxiety and frustration, the narcissist transitions sometimes, depending on the extent, the narcissist transitions sometimes into a borderline state. His defenses shut down and he emotionally dysregulates. If the condition, if the environment, the frustrating environment persists, the narcissist transitions to a primary psychopathic state. He becomes a psychopath. The borderline transitions to a secondary psychopathic state. So both the borderline and the narcissist, they have a low frustration threshold, low tolerance for frustration. And this leads the narcissist to desperate attempts to eliminate the source of frustration. In the case of the narcissist, frustration does breed aggression. But in healthy people, the aggression is intended to signal displeasure, discomfort, and modify the other party's behavior. When you're frustrated, and if you're mentally healthy, relatively speaking, your aggression would be intended to change the behavior of the person who is frustrating you, or to modify the environment in a way which would reduce frustration. It's not the case with the narcissist. The narcissist aggression is externalized. It's reckless. It often culminates in verbal or physical violence. And this is the process known as coercive snapshotting. The narcissist aggression is intended to try to force you to conform to his expectations of you, to try to force you to coalesce with, to merge with the internal object in his mind that represents you. He wants you, the narcissist wants you to stop existing outside his mind and to fuse symbiotically with the object in his mind that represents you. And this way, of course, to eliminate the frustration. And if you refuse to shut up, if you refuse to succumb, if you refuse to be submissive, if you refuse to be obedient, if you insist on your independence and personal autonomy and agency and self-efficacy, if you walk away, in any of these cases, the narcissist would try to act in a way that would either eradicate you, obliterate you, eliminate you, annihilate you, or coerce you into behaving the way he wants to. And this could culminate and escalate into physical violence, definitely.